Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Peter Ariz here, bringing you today's edition of the Instant Reaction from Canes practice number 7. As always, I'm here in my car immediately after the media viewing of practice today. Guys, let me know how I sound, how I look. I know we had some camera issues yesterday. I changed the cord, so I think we should be good. Hopefully no seizure-inducing flashing lights. So, we're trying to get this thing technically right for you guys as we provide the latest from practice. And today it was the first day of pads, so you start to see a lot more, and you understand that there's been limited physicality in practice up to this point, but now they really get hitting, they really get going. If you guys listened to Mario on Joe Rose this morning, he had a lot of juice, he had a lot of energy, so you could tell Mario was extra excited about this practice today. And again, guys who are asking about injuries, as we're not going to get into specifics, but there's nothing new to report there. You know, the same that we know is still there, and if anything changes, I'll let you guys know. But as we go through what we saw today, you know, some guys that stood out to me that haven't necessarily, you know, for one reason or another, like, their names haven't been mentioned to me. I haven't seen anything out of this world that would be worth mentioning. But today, with the pads on, one player in particular we'll talk about here, a young guy who I was excited about. But yeah, just getting into it here. Was talking to someone before I get into what I saw today. Was talking to someone who was at practice for the entirety yesterday, and basically the gist of what he had to say was Carson Beck is 100% legit, and Armando Blunt is that guy. And Armando Blunt actually today, we'll get into it later in this instant reaction, but had a play that would have been a sack from what it looked like, as these plays are called dead. There's not, you know, full contact or full, not full contact. They're not hitting the quarterback, right? So they had stopped the play dead, but a nice rep by him there. So just getting an up close look at some of these defensive linemen. Justin Scott, we keep talking about how freakish he is, how he's put on that weight that he's needed. Really came in as more of a basketball player, but basically he's looking like DT, to me, DT1 really. He's got everything it takes. There's a reason this guy was a 5-star defensive tackle. And again, we got a really up close look at some of the defensive tackles today. A lot of times they're on the other side of the field. And I posted a picture in the Discord of him about 10, 15 yards away from me. And you see it. He's got a good belly on him now. He's got the belly you want to see on a defensive tackle. So really excited about him this year. Dalen Russell, I also, you know, and if you guys are wondering what the Discord is, just so you know, I post live updates. I started a private Discord. I just dropped the link in here now. I know, you know, a lot of you are in there. And you're asked, listen, you guys are asking about certain players. There's updates in there on them, you know, in the private forum, right? So not to be too cryptic there, but we have updates in there that I know you guys are looking for. And again, not changing my work here on Canes Insight. Obviously, as you've seen the last week, as I've been doing this, I think only going to make the information for the Canes Insight show better. Haven't done written content in a few years, really 5-6 years consistently. So I'm excited to get back into it. I did a nice write-up this morning on Mario from Joe Rose, like my biggest takeaways. He was on there for like 20 minutes. So I tried to give you guys the most important stuff from there. So what I was getting at, though, Dalen Russell, he's someone I made a post about in terms of his weight gain. He's at 298, 300 now. A guy who's added about 45 to 50 pounds since high school. Was a Dade County Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. And he needed to put weight on. That's just, we had a lot of questions about him last year. Why weren't we mentioning him, all that? It was a year of growth for him. He was not ready yet. This is the sort of player, as D Money talks about it a lot on our show, that you go from being in high school and being able to dominate a certain way to just not being there physically yet. And as a football player, he's got the tools, but you had to see if he was going to put that size on. So it's great to see he's done that, and he's in the mix, you know, for a rotational spot, right? A question here from Juan Manuel asking, did Dante Simpson hit the freshman wall? Just because we're talking, you know, good about one guy, we're talking about, you know, potentially DT4, DT5, who's in that mix. But I think he's helped himself, right? I don't think that us saying good things about one player means Dante Simpson isn't doing, you know, well in his own right. There's a lot of excitement about him. He's someone who is up at, you know, over 300 pounds now as a freshman with more room to grow. And look, Simpson's still bigger than Dalen Russell, right? But Russell's now been here a year in the system. So these are the battles you like to see. You like to see a guy who, and this is what I was going to say before, D Money mentioned, this is a guy in Dalen Russell that 3-4 years, you know, he's normally a guy who doesn't have the physical attributes that we're raving over, but he goes to a Louisville, he goes to, you know, a Pittsburgh, and 3-4 years from now, we're like, man, that guy turned into a really good player. Why didn't Miami recruit him? He was at Columbus. He could be a nice piece for our defensive line. And in year 2, is he ready to be a dominant defensive tackle? I'm not ready to go that far, but can he be a part of what Miami does? I don't see why not. So it's been great to see our see that development. Multiconte said, I haven't heard anything on Tony Johnson. He out there making an impression. He's solid, man. I think that he was a good addition to the room. I mentioned a couple weeks ago early on in practice, he's bigger than I think I realized. Let me see what he's I don't have the height and weight with me now, but let me see what he was listed at last year. So let's see. Internet's being a little slow for me, but when I was thinking slot receiver, I was thinking, you know, he'd be a little smaller. He's a good player, man. I think he's you know, if you talk about talent, I think Malachi Tony's got him. Malachi Tony's doing very, very well. Ray Joseph has also stepped it up, as we know. But you got a nice group of slot receivers there, who are battling it out. And to me, the competition there is good. I'll say this on Tony Johnson, right? Like, I'm not going to go out here and say that he's a star. The kid's a stud, but he's not to take the filter out. This is not a bum, right? This is a guy who can play at the University of Miami, without a doubt, was extremely productive last year. I like that take a lot, considering his production over the course of his career. Has played a lot of football and has been a good addition to that room. Whether he catches 40 balls this year or not, I don't know. I think there's other people in that room who you hope can elevate and become you know, huge parts of the offense. But I like that addition to the room. One thing I was looking at and that was one of the next points I was getting at here, that receiver room, you know, there's a lot of discussion about it. But one thing I will say is I'm really liking the size in that room. As we're getting a question about Chance Robinson here. And, you know, I think early part of camp, Chance was still getting his feet wet. I think he's getting more comfortable now. And the size of that room, you have Josh Moore at 6'3", 6'4", 215. CJ Daniels, 6'1", 6'2", 205. Chance Robinson, 200 plus at 6'1". Dalen Upshaw, that's a big freshman. So, yeah, do you have freakazoids left and right, 6'4" receivers winning jump balls? You got Josh Moore. You don't have that across the board. I don't know you need that. But that room looks good, right, in terms of that that aspect of it. There's some guys that, you know, on a smaller end, like a JoJo, like a, you know, a Nikar, but Nikar gives you that speed, and hopefully he can bring that element for you. As I think Kevin Beard said the other day to Barry Jackson, that he reminded him of Jalen Waddle. I don't know if I see that one, but hey, that'd be a heck of a comparison if it comes to fruition, right? You know, just a quick note here, and this, as always, my stuff's all over the place because I'm just taking these notes as practice goes. But Charles Brantley is someone who consistently always tends to be, from gathering what the coaches are saying and how they react to his reps, seems to be one of the most consistent players in individual work. And you'd expect that. He's a veteran, but there's no, you know, the corrections with him seem to be very minimal from the coaches. And he seems to be a guy that we may have forgotten about because he was one of the earlier transfers, and Keontae Scott has come in now also at that more of a nickel role, and I think he might have a leg up there. But Brantley, it's nice to have a plethora of guys who can cover, and Brantley I throw in that mix for sure. Probably more specialized against a certain type of receiver. I think might have trouble against a bigger bodied guy, more physical types, but Brantley's going to serve an important role for Miami this year. And to me, just again, being out there and watching a lot of these individual drills seems to be one of the most consistent workers in practice. Defensive backs were working on a drill today where they were backpedaling, changing directions, and locating the football in the air. And there was one rep in particular, Xavier Lucas and Jabari Antoine, freshmen who I spoke about yesterday. They were right next to each other doing the same drill. And I got to say, it looked very similar. You know, Lucas maybe has an inch on him, but Jabari Antoine, tall, lanky, needs to fill out, right? Lucas is a more filled out version of him right now, for sure, from a body type standpoint. But Antoine's one to watch for the future, man. I wrote about him a lot on the work Discord yesterday, and he's someone who I don't know that they need to play this year all that much, but is going to be very interesting to track his progress throughout the year in terms of weight gain and how he continues to respond from the injury coming off the knee injury from high school, because he's still out there with the brace. But getting very excited about him. And D Money's mentioned as potentially maybe a safety down the line, but I see him with the ability to play corner, man. He looks good to me out there. They're working on some route combinations against, you know, nobody, basically, like no defense. And Emory had a couple nice throws in a row. One was a corner route about 25 yards downfield to Alex Bauman. The next one was pretty much the same play to the other side to Brock Schott. Just now, sorry, I'm gathering my notes here, but the last section that I want to talk about here was this was to me the best part of practice and one of the best things I've seen in practice all, you know, the first couple of weeks here, just because it and that's the problem with practice. You don't always know what they're working on, right? So I could say, wow, this guy blew this guy up, or it was a great rep for this guy, but I don't always know what the intention of the drill is. So we have to take everything, even everything that I say here, with a grain of salt. But it looked like a drill where they were almost working on picking up things in terms of blitzes, pass protection, combinations, pass protection, communication, I should say. And it was, and for the defensive front, working on there were some stunts going on there, working on some blitzes coming in from different angles. So it was a way for, I think, both sides of the trenches to work. So there wasn't really like a play. The quarterback was getting the ball snapped to him, and then the trenches were doing their thing. So just a few things. So Nino Francavilla had a nice rep against Justin Scott. Max Buchanan, this is the guy that I mentioned earlier who really stood out to me today as the pads came on. Someone that came along during the spring, was an early enrollee. I think sometimes those trenches, it's tough right away to make that adjustment as a true freshman. But he had two plays today. One was a rep against Dalen Russell that he had a very nice win against. And again, the physicality, just driving, was different, I think, when the pads came on today for him. And then freaking amazing rep against Ahmad Moten, who I have high hopes for Moten this year. But on that particular play, Buchanan, you know, did a great job on him. So I was really impressed there. Brock Schott was the other freshman that him and Jaden Wilkerson had a combination block on Marquise Lightfoot. Lightfoot played through the whistle, threw Lightfoot almost to the floor, had to help him up. But you could just see that with these pads on, I think Schott's going to make a move here. Schott, we know he's a freak in terms of the speed, the strength, the weight room stuff. And when you can max this physicality out now a little bit, I think he's going to make a move big time in terms of getting more reps here. So really excited about him. His physicality stood out to me above a lot of people today. I'll say that. a few different packages I saw them working: Lightfoot, Blay, Scott, Blunt, Lightfoot, Moten, Dalen Russell, Blunt. That was when I said Armando Blunt had a play that looked like it was a sack. He kind of bent around the edge. That Hayden Lowe moving inside on a rep. So we talk about what we keep talking about DT4, who's DT4, who's DT4. DT4 is going to probably be, more than anything, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Hayden Lowe, Armando Blunt, when they're moving inside on these pass rushing situations, right? So yes, you need someone to emerge, but we're going to see a lot of these guys moving around, a lot of different combinations in terms of the pass rushers up front, and it's a lot of different things you can look at, man. I'm very excited. A lot of different combinations in terms of the athletes that you're getting out there. Yeah, so very excited about what's to come here. Mario had me pumped up this morning on his Joe Rose show. You don't always hear about him talking like that, but I'm glad. Listen, we have our boy King Malik. I believe he's a Gator fan. He was on with us last year before the season, and we didn't hear much from him during the year. But we appreciate the support as always. Malik, hit that like, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys later today. We'll probably be getting on with D Money, getting more info out there for you guys, getting his thoughts on practice today. And again, if you guys can please go support the Discord. I'm gonna have my own full written report up later today. A lot of this stuff will be on there, but in more detail. Oh, was getting a phone call there. Apologize. But hit that like, subscribe. Go Canes.